Hello and welcome to my critical reflection. For my practical experience, I attended Lucas Heights Community School. This is a co-ed school and runs from kindergarten all the way through to year 12. The lesson I will be reflecting on is a year 9 Industrial Technology Timber practical class consisting of students with varying levels of ability. This lesson took place 2 weeks into my practical experience, so I was familiar with the students and had begun to establish a good rapport with them. The class had just completed their previous project, and so I had prepared to introduce them to their next project, which would be a retro table. As a TAS teacher, I'm an advocate for project-based learning, as I believe it creates a much more authentic learning experience. This next project would help develop understanding and experience implementing different joinery techniques, as well as improve skills using specific hand tools. My goal for the end of the lesson was for each student to have successfully marked out and cut 4 pieces of timber to length and then join them together to create the base for their retro table. This was quite ambitious considering their work speed, but I think it's always a good idea to have more to do rather than not enough, just so it keeps the students busy. Adopting concepts from the constructivist learning theory, I began the lesson with a discussion around the project, asking students why we might be doing certain things and referencing similar techniques and processes that they had used previously. As this was a practical lesson, the students would learn by doing and would have various social interactions throughout the lesson regarding the project. I also chose to implement elements of a humanistic approach towards these students by creating a positive learning environment, fostering peer relationships, and helping students to achieve self-actualization. 2 of the students in this class had high-functioning autism. To cater for these students, I utilized visual cues, in this case a demonstration following the discussion, to correctly model each task, thus making it easy to follow. This demonstration was coupled with a clear verbal explanation. I also provided the class with a large scale diagram of the project as well as a prototype that I had constructed which they could measure and follow if they were stuck. Referring to Gardner's multiple intelligences, students with verbal linguistic skills may learn best through listening to the explanation or participating in the discussion. Students with visual spatial strengths may learn best through studying the provided diagram. Students with kinesthetic intelligence may learn best through hands-on experience and physical construction of the project. Students with interpersonal and/or intrapersonal intelligence may also thrive in this lesson, as the classroom environment encourages social interactions but also allows students to work individually and learn from mistakes. The Australian teaching standards that were targeted in this lesson are Standard 1.2, Understand How Students Learn, and Standard 1.4, Differentiate Teaching to meet the specific needs of students across the full range of abilities. To measure the success of the lesson, I made observations throughout and asked students for informal feedback at the end of the lesson. Reflecting on the lesson, I could develop stronger behavior management techniques as some of the students can get a little rowdy, especially as this was a practical lesson. In conversations with my supervising teacher, he advised me that I should stop the students mid-lesson and address the class as a whole if I felt it was necessary to restore order. Adding to that, I think it may be beneficial for me to adopt elements from a behaviorist approach in some scenarios by reinforcing the ideas of both punishment and reward. My supervising teacher also advised me to cut back on my usage of the word please and replace it with thank you instead. For example, instead of saying, "Could you please put that away?" it would be much more effective to say, "Could you put that away, thank you?" This is something I hadn't previously considered but have since taken on board. Feedback provided by my ACU tertiary supervisor on the lesson reads, "Jaden started the lesson well with a good clear voice. He issued clear instructions of what was to be achieved in the lesson. Jaden moved around the room to keep students on task and guide students with their work. Students were for the most part engaged and on task. Jaden modelled respectful and positive language in his feedback to students. Jaden is developing a good rapport with students and is building a supportive learning environment." In an informal conversation with him after receiving this feedback, he also added that I should try to avoid getting stuck with one student in the middle of the room and losing sight of other students. To achieve this, I will ask students to come over to me rather than going to them, so that I still have full view of the class. I would also like to bring ICT in the workshop to trial lessons involving 3D modelling in the future.